Hello, everyone. Welcome to Not Just a Thing, brought to you by Ting and Mickey.
Hey Tim, how you doing? Hey everybody.
Hi. So this episode, we are going to dive into reconnection to our self. Mickey, why is this worth talking about?
Well, it's a good question, and I think you probably have more to say about this, but so often we just sort of are outward looking and we don't even check in with ourselves about like how do we feel, and it can sneak up on us, or it can make us feel disconnected, or we can feel almost over emotional about it when it suddenly hits us. And so at least for myself, I mean, connecting with me has not been very easy in my life, I think, in some ways. Like I don't know if I think too much about the thinking about my thinking and my emotions all the time. And so I'd like to get better at that.
We will review some scientific insights about why we talk about connection or disconnection with self as one of the number one crises that we think that really hinders well-being. But before that, we would like to share with you what the game is about. So it's called Not Just a Thing, and it's a special slot machine that would redesign two things in your choice environment to solve that crisis with three contextual constraints. And so we are now still in our hacking the morning routine to redesign the two things in connection with the morning routine to solve the crisis of disconnection with self. And so
I want to say one thing before we go into that. If you can go back one slide, I think it's really important. If you've never seen our live stream before, we call it Not Just a Thing because we're surrounded by things and places all day long, and those things are now starting to get connected and have opinions, because it's like that speaker over there actually has its own set of goals, and they might not be my goals. So how do we enlist our things and our places to actually help us build healthy habits and help us build better well-being? This looks just like a pad of paper, but if I peel off this top sticker, and it actually says grab a mask and a leash, and I put it right over there by
do it
the
again.
stairs.
Make it, yeah.
And it says grab mask and leash. One of the things I notice is that, like, when I go to walk the dog, a lot of times because of COVID and all that, I forget, like, my mask is in either pants or jacket or something. So I put this thing in the physical environment by the stairs, and that's way better than me having to think about it all the time. But right when I walk towards the stairs, it's like, oh yeah, let me get that, because once I get downstairs, it's just a hassle. So this is like a little tripwire. So it's not just a thing, it's like a secret thing I can put for my future self to help me. And so things can shape what we do. And in this show, we kind of play around with how we could actually enlist our things and our places to help us.
Right. And I want to relate to one stats on New Year resolutions. We're in second month of the year, and we know that 1/3 of people failed after January already to stick to their New Year resolution. Everybody's stress level is slowly but surely starting to rise. And negative self-talk.
It's only February and 1/3 of people are already failing at their New Year's resolution. Wow.
Yes. And one of the insights that I learned from behavioral science is that when I fell in the behavioral change, I actually don't blame myself anymore, because it's actually not scientific to think that your motivation and your character and your willpower is the one that determines how successful you are in a behavioral change. It is only natural, it is only normal, it is only the necessary outcome if we actually don't leverage scientific insights and don't leverage supports from our choice environment, or the so-called redesign of choice environment, to help us actually get more successful. So that's why we want to redesign two things, but we also want to make sure that we don't judge ourselves for those failure, which is an unscientific approach to approach it. So
and I think that feels really important because you've taught me that upwards of 50 to 70% of our decisions are sometimes made by like zombie Mickey, not real Mickey. Like I just make these decisions because the whole choice environment around me makes them for me, because it's kind of overwhelming for me to make the decisions. And so you could call this choice architecture, or the choice environment that overlays on the physical environment. Like how do we enlist all these things to help us? What's this? So this looks like a book. I'd love to hear more about this. What's going on with it?
So more and more scientific findings also show that our decisions are oftentimes triggered by, again, the automatic processes, and sometimes it can be a habit, habitual response. Sometimes it can be also emotional drivers, our feelings. So sometimes when we are sleep deprived, we are much more likely to get irritated by another person's behavior. So when me and my husband was having a fight, and I realized that I was just sleep deprived, these days I no longer really blame him for the behavior that I was superficially kind of putting my anger over. But I would tell him like, hey, by the way, I'm sleep deprived. Probably today I'm going to be, my temperament is not going to be at a good level. And then when it actually happens, I'm not going to continue that fight. And instead we were going to try to connect to our feelings and say, hey, I'm just feeling irritated in general, and really find a way to remind ourselves that what's the real drive for our decisions and behavior. And so making that diagnosis requires that we are connected to our feelings. And I put post-it note around to remind myself, to ask myself often enough that question, or even in the morning, looking in the mirror, I'll check in with myself and say, hey, what am I feeling right now? And how is that going to inform my interpretation of my behavior and decision over the day?
What did you get from this book that you really liked? I mean, I'm just curious, if you were teaching us one thing about the permission to feel book, was it just this notion that you should give yourself permission to feel, like it's okay to like be mad or pissed off or irritated or sleep deprived or whatever? Like that's part of us. Don't beat ourselves up.
So the oftentimes we over attribute our behavior to deliberate intentions. We say, oh, if somebody was angry about something or doesn't do something, it must be that he or she intentionally does that, and not looking for these seemingly unrelated sort of bounded rational behavior, right? So when we are feeling tired, we'll just be or when we forgot to do something. Like how many people actually forgot to wear the mask, at the beginning of the pandemic? But then when that person is out there, how many people are going to be stared at as if they really intentionally do it, even when they just forgot to do it, right? So there's this misattribution of the intention, even sometimes to ourselves. We were like, oh, we are, I'm eating the unhealthy snack, I must be, lacking. I'm going to kind of over attribute that to my character, to my identity, than to actually the situational factors. And if we realize more and more the situational factors and also these kind of transitory sort of feelings that cause this behavior, we're more likely to not avoid it, run away from it, but to face the reality and seize the reality, or even seek solutions to it positively. So this is actually
this is really profound. This notion that we attribute so much of what even we do to some part of our character, or some deficit in things. We judge ourselves in that way. So what are we looking at now? This looks like more of the Center for Advanced Hindsight stuff. What's going on here?
Yes. So and when you ask yourself, like, how are you feeling right now? There's like some scientific new insight looking at third person perspective versus first person. And when you're more stressful, to put it in third person actually helps you regulate your emotion, or more distance yourself from it, so that you can really be more at ease doing that introspection. There's also
I think
related, yeah.
Yeah, this idea that I should say, like, what is Mickey feeling right now, rather than saying what do I feel right now. I know there's a related report. I think it was Ethan Cross wrote a book and talked about that, and this is really fascinating too. Which is, even if you speak in public or if you have to present, it turns out that if you tell yourself, Mickey, you can do this, Mickey, you got this. Judges who watch people give talks rank people that actually do a little more distant self-talk. In other words, me saying, Mickey, I can do this, or Ting saying to herself, Ting, you can do this, works better. The judges believe the person is better at speaking. They're better at actually presenting. So it's almost like separating yourself a little bit from yourself helps you perform better, and maybe even helps you see the emotions for what they are, so you can diagnose. So I think this is just a weird, fascinating thing. It's just even the way that we talk to ourselves matters.
Yeah. And so for today, we are having 3 wonderful guests who will join us to play the game, to redesign 2 things and our morning routine to help promote our well-being and help us actually connect better with ourselves. So first of all, welcome, and we'd love to know who you are.
Hi.
Daniel.
Hello. And, oh, by the way, yeah, let's go around the room. Daniel, you go first, but just give us like a sentence to encapsulate your entire life. That's what I'd like. Just
Thanks.
Because I have very short attention span, but I'm not judging myself.
All right. I am thanks for the prep on that. I am a nomad who likes to think deeply about important things and gets distracted super easily with not necessarily important things, but sometimes. I enjoy not knowing what I'm doing all the time.
Yeah, I think that's actually your superpower, is jumping into things you have no idea what you're doing, and then becoming special sauce to everybody else in the team after you've figured out what nobody else could figure out. So give me another sentence, this time just about a little of your background, like, so people in the audience understand that, like, where you're coming from.
Work-wise, all sorts of graphics, 3D graphics, real-time 3D graphics, film 3D graphics, design. So generally space and time, manipulating space and time, understanding it, and just in terms of design anyway. And then from a completely different point of view, just a design, not so much for aesthetic, but for interaction and experience, but not even from the like UI of a flat screen, rather like physical experiences and physical kind of like embedding yourself into a mindset. It isn't necessarily just about an application or a story.
And so Daniel I know, and Grace and David I don't. Daniel, just for everyone else's benefit, I met him in 1999 at a thing called SIGGRAPH, which is a computer science, computer graphics convention that's kind of like mind-blowing. And there was a giant 1956 Cadillac Baratz, a real car, like giant thing, and half of it was real, and the other half suddenly dissolved into actually wireframe made out of welded metal. And you climbed into the car, and you drove a 100-foot display into another universe. And his art collective called Magritte's Cow built that in 1999. And I was like, who did this? Who did this? Where is this? So that's what he means by sort of immersive experiences and computer graphics. And then I found out he was at Disney and DreamWorks, and had some other experiences. Grace, I don't know you at all. Yeah, you hit some chops. Who are you, Grace? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's a great question. I ask myself that every day. I guess if I had to give a one-sentence overview, of my life, I'd say I'm an introverted extrovert, basil leaf, that enjoys the process of creation and just kind of new experiences.
You know, Grace, you said something about working on neuroaesthetics, and I had no idea what that word was. And so can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. So part of what I do is I work at Johns Hopkins on neuroaesthetics research. So it's essentially looking at the impacts of art and architecture on people and communities. We do a lot through a lens of well-being, since it's through the School of Medicine, but neuroaesthetics can range on any kind of impact, basically.
Wow. All right. I've never heard of that before. Excellent. And David, who are you?
It's good to be with you guys again. I am an expatriate Australian social psychologist with a Chihuahua. I work mainly, I kind of work at the cusp of academia, but really in translation of ideas about how to change human behavior, the kind of edge of how you would apply those to kind of very concrete real world problems. So things like health problems in the developing world, or here in the US, things like how to stop people from progressing from pre-diabetes to actually get diabetes, or how to get people to protect themselves against Zika virus from mosquitoes in the developing world. So it's really, where the rubber meets the road in terms of ideas from behavioral science and how could they help, solve a really tricky problem in the real world.
Wow. All right. And we were talking a little bit about this notion of you're working right now with CDC and others on this the pre-diabetes thing. And, it's almost like we think of diabetes as this, well, it's just something, you got it or you don't. And certainly for one type of diabetes, you're born with this genetically, but for most people, this is a curable disease. This is not something that we have to live with, that it has to do with what you just said, habit and behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Type 2 diabetes is really a lifestyle-based disease. So it exists in the developed world predominantly, and it's because of what people eat and don't eat and what forms of exercise they do and don't engage in. And if those things changed, and remarkably, it's often not a lot. It's if people can shift their calorie intake a little bit each day and exercise a little bit more, a lot of people could avoid becoming diabetic, and it really is a pretty awful disease to have.
Yeah. Wow. All right, Ting, what are we going to do today?
Yeah. So the crisis, as we mentioned before, is the lack of self-compassion and not being able to experience and express the more authentic self. And so the two things we will take to redesign today, well, one of the things will come from the routine that we'll redesign. And Grace is gracefully accepting to be the target user of today's redesign challenge. David and Daniel, you're going to be playing against Grace and Mickey for that solution. And so we're going to look into these routines. And Grace, you're going to have to tell us which one you like to be redesigned. Which routine is the one that you have the biggest opportunity for perhaps inserting a self-connection, new habit, or sort of where you have the bad habit of maybe checking social media or sort of getting distracted by the external world and not taking enough time to take care of yourself, that we could substitute that old habit with better new habit.
So Grace,
Sure.
pick a color: green, salmon, purple. Which one is it that we're going to all work on?
So
you can read the top of the description there. Yeah.
So just the descriptions underneath the color.
Yeah. Well, just choose. Which one of those do you think we can help you with?
or even timeline, right?
I'll do orange.
All right. Work break socializing. So this will be in the morning. If you notice, the green started with kind of the first breath right when you woke up, and orange is right, kind of mid-morning, work break socializing. So that's what our whole day is going to be focused on now. We're going to focus on you, work-life, organizing, and we gave you a thing that might help or hurt, or who knows. It's called a coffee or a tea thing. I don't know. That's that little icon underneath the orange.
Okay, so we're redesigning work breaks. So during the break, instead of maybe checking on social media and getting distracted, you want to make better use of your work break to create a routine to find deeper and better connections with yourself. And so we're now drawing another thing. So the pad and toilet paper was from last episode. David,
so we're not going to do pad
Daniel,
and we're not going to do toilet paper.
No. Can you give us a number so that we can take other things to redesign?
Sure. 11.
11? Daniel? Give us the number.
17.
Okay. Mickey, do you mind open the...
Yeah, so what were the numbers? 17?
11.
And 11.
And 11.
Smell, okay.
And
Smell
floor.
and floor. All right.
Wow.
And we have a bonus object in case you need it.
So we've got coffee, tea, floor, and smell, and a bonus item. What's the bonus item? It is a body part. Whoa. So that's a thing. It's true that your brain is not all alone. It's got this whole thing called a body around you. So a body part could actually help you in some way. All right, Ting, you are making this so interesting. Every week, I never know what's going to happen. Okay.
Oh my God.
So those are.
So you have
it's
to
going to be a work
redesign.
socialization break. I like blaming Ting for everything. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, so we have our last slot of the slot machine. We have a little bit of a contextual constraint here. It's not yet done. Daniel, it's like, shoot. What are we doing?
This is throwing me for a fantastic loop. I love it.
We can't let you have an easy time here.
No.
All right. Random number is 1. So Mickey, if you review that, we have the time context and the social context. Okay, so there's no future tech to help you. You have to redesign it for imagining it like
computing
now.
for tunneling. You can't do it. It's got to be a product we can make today.
Yeah. And the question mark is, Grace, do you live with anybody else or pets or plants? What is your social context?
I do have lots of plants.
But no humans around.
No humans or animals. Most of the plants are alive too, but only
Okay.
Oh, well done.
Okay, so that's the social context of Grace. Lots of plants in terms of living things around, right? Okay, now you have 3 minutes to come up with the morning routine during Grace work breaks and leverage the two things, the floor and the smell. And the context is now, and she's living with plants. So the goal is to help her connect with her feelings, develop self-compassion for herself, take good care of herself. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna bring the timer. So grab a Post-it. Pick your favorite color.
Grab a Post-it. Where do I grab a Post-it?
Oh, the little toolbar on the left. There's usually a pointer and a Post-it in Miro, and you can just pull one out. Just touch the Post-it and pull it out, and then you can tap on it and start typing with your typewriter.
Okay.
Daniel, you got it. Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah.
And
if you tell me a color, I can help you change.
We're gonna let everyone. Yeah, we'll let everyone first at least try to figure out how to grab a Post-it and be able to type in it. Is everyone able to do that yet?
I am just trying to figure. I mean, I can type in it, but the text is monstrous.
Oh, it'll keep shrinking as you type. Just type.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Timing start. 3 minutes.
Oh boy.
Oh, crazy.
I tried to put a reminder up there of what the things are in the context, just in case.
Yeah, so we have smell, coffee, tea, and floor.
Coffee, tea are also. Oh, I see. Those are okay. Perfect.
Those just go with the routine. They don't have to. Yeah. Floor and smell are the two things that you have to use.
Two minutes. So much time. I'm going to take a break.
Nice.
So this is for Grace.
Can you write your name before your idea?
Sure. Oh. You can draw on your.
Yep. Or anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel, sorry. Miro is not like the most user-friendly for drawing.
It's all sorts of crazy, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Of course not. Oh man, it was so dumb. All right, I don't care.
Okay, let's give a 30 seconds extension for technical.
Good idea.
Yay, we failed to stick to the time.
That's right. 30 seconds.
Yay!
Buy us some time. Yes. Keep
Good job.
typing. I'm going to
Host
change my idea
failure.
completely.
Oh. Mickey, can you bring your idea into the whiteboard? Don't put it on the
Of
side.
course I will. Yeah. No, I will. I just was typing. I like to type secretly.
Nobody's gonna steal your idea.
Everybody's
I'm
busy,
like
Mickey. We're all
sorry.
busy with our own ideas.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. David, you cheated. You can't have two ideas.
Oh, you can't? Oh, I didn't. Sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
No,
No, you
come on.
can't.
You can have 10. That's not okay. Yay, David broke it and made more than one idea.
Oh, yeah, technically, this is a pain in the butt. All right.
Sorry, Daniel.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
What are you feeling right now, Daniel? Connect with yourself.
What am I really feeling? It's all good.
That's great. Okay, we're gonna start with David. Can you talk about your two ideas? I know they're self-explanatory, but
Sure. Okay. So one of them is to use smell as a kind of way of reconnecting, for Grace to reconnect with her body and her senses and the less kind of cognitive side of her mind and her sense of self. And so the idea would be to lay in child's pose on the floor and then have a little cup of fresh coffee beans, and to use the physicality of being on the floor in child's pose plus the sensory input of the coffee beans as a way to kind of get out of your cognitive thinking for a little while and get back into your body and your senses.
Let's hear your second one.
So this is kind of weird science, but there is a little bit of evidence for something called hypothalamic cooling. And it's actually an old idea, and I'm not gonna say that it's proven science, but the theory basically is that when you breathe through your nose, right in the back of the sinuses, there's an artery that runs up into the hypothalamus, and there is a theory that it's so close to the skin in the back of the sinuses that by breathing through your nose, you can actually slightly cool the blood running into your hypothalamus, which is supposed to slightly elevate mood. So some people have done experiments where they try to compare nose breathing to mouth breathing. And there's some evidence that it can slightly temporarily improve mood to engage in like deep nasal breathing because of this cooling effect on the blood running into the brain. So the idea would be that Grace could lay on the floor with her knees elevated, put a little bit of pressure of the blood going up into the upper extremities, and then to breathe deeply through her nose, thereby cooling the blood going into hypothalamus.
Oh,
David, the special, the special breathing of, inhaling for a few seconds, hold for a few seconds, but then exhaling for much longer. That has been a lot of more rigorous scientific evidence. Showing that how that can kind of calm us down, even with a few deep breaths.
Yes.
So that could be combined, kind of
Let's
a
hear
breathing.
Grace's.
Yeah. I love that we're gonna solve this for me today. So for mine, I produced the synesthetic shag carpet, and I had this roommate when I was in college who was synesthetic, and so of course my mind immediately went to that. So the idea here is to use the floor, time, smell, but also activating body parts and trying to find a way to activate synesthesia, which I don't have, but I would love to find a way for this carpet to embody that. But the idea is that it hooks up to my Google Calendar, so it knows my schedule of the day, and it knows like when I'm going to be busy and when I have things, and it can potentially predict when I might feel a little overwhelmed, or maybe when I'm so busy that I might forget to do something. So then it creates this roadmap through the day that will activate different colors or smells or sensory triggers to remind me to eat or to talk to someone or to take a walk, or lights up different pathways that kind of take me out of my concentration zone and help me kind of snap back into what I need to do for long-term flow state and well-being. And then the idea at the end of the day is I'll have a cup of tea, and then that tea will kind of it'll be the flavor of if I did a good job or not. So if I did a good job of following my roadmap, it'll be a pleasant taste. And if not, I don't really want to know if I ever want to try it.
Oh, I like the idea of associating like a flavor with a competency or a deliver, like a pulling something off, like making things. That's very good. I also keep picturing shag carpet, and I'm thinking about like, wow, what that immediately makes me think of synesthetics. It's kind of like I wonder what a shag carpet tastes like. And then I think back in the 70s, I don't really want to know what it tastes like. Let's go to Daniel's.
Okay. Well, Mickey, I have yours here. Why don't you quickly?
I know you do.
It's very hard to move this mirror board.
Okay.
Failure.
So mine is called Floor, Wax, and Wane. And that was just because I sometimes like to just come up with names and I don't know what they mean. When Grace takes a walk, takes a break and walks through the room, her floor steals her body parts. So it's actually like kind of a sensor thing. It's got like infrared FLIR sensors. So as she walks, it like starts lighting up her feet as she moves by. And it steals those body parts, but then it plays back when that body part actually was excited or sad. So like when she was jumping for joy, and it reminds her in a third person way about herself when she was another thing. And maybe her shirt, because it was also like body part, her shirt makes her feel like wings are on her back and she can actually feel them kind of fluttering and shaking themselves out. It kind of breaks her out of thinking about herself, but she thinks about what would happen if she had more grace.
Love it.
Very immersive.
Very cool.
I just made that up. I don't know. Okay, Daniel.
Where's mine?
Where's yours? Here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Zoom.
Got this. Ooh, this is
A
intriguing.
little higher, I
I
think.
wonder why it's moving so slowly today. That's weird. Okay, Daniel, what do you got?
So mine starts earlier than the coffee break, but I'm gonna take a slice out of the idea with the coffee break. So you use coffee beans in a Zen garden to design your tiny toasts, and then you take pictures of them with your Tiny Toast Diary app that I'll get into later because there's lots more of it. And then you write a tiny toast to go with it, and then it's your diary of that moment for that day.
What's the diagram there, Daniel? What's that?
Oh, those are the rakes, but they're kind of like,
that was
you know, utensils
Zen
because,
rakes.
because I don't know, knives and forks kind of rakes. Because tiny toast requires butter.
Now, for the audience, Grace, can you hold up your tiny toast just to the camera?
Wait, let me. I gotta.
Because I don't know if everyone understands what Daniel means by this. Oops.
I don't have any complete tiny toast.
Yeah.
Is it like more like a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich tiny toast when you're done with it?
I haven't done bacon, lettuce, and tomatoes yet, but
okay, hold on. Oh my gosh! So, and that's like a tomato, maybe.
Yeah, these are some of my tomatoes. I like to make a bruschetta or some avocado toast, some tomatoes and cucumbers, and I have like a little cucumber.
Oh, so we need more than coffee beans. Because coffee beans are just one texture. That's just going to give you black and white. You need something more than that.
Okay.
I don't
All
know.
right. So this was trial one. Now this was mostly just like a warm up, so that you tried to actually pull out a Post-it and type something, and also just your kind of initial reactions about how to tackle the challenge. How could Grace reconnect with herself during a coffee break or during a mid morning break? What do we do now?
Yeah. So, Grace, I think what we want to also know, there are wonderful things, hobbies you already have. So obviously there's something that is in the way. Can you say something about during the work break? What typically would be a bad habit that you have that might be in the way of your doing your wonderful mini toast hobby, for example?
I think I put a little too much on my plate, so I actually don't take breaks that often. I'll just like work straight through the day and kind of forget about it until I crash a couple days later, or just wait the whole day and kind of speed through without too much break.
Great. So David, you are the scientist in the team. And you and I are going to fry Grace through a diagnosis journey to figure out what's the behavioral barrier. underlying the not taking breaks behavior and not connecting with oneself.
Mm.
You ready?
Let's do it.
David? Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Is Grace ready? That's the question. Brutal.
Yeah.
Be my third therapist this week. It'll be perfect.
Good. So first of all, let's just clarify: is the issue not is the behavior that you want to be different? Is it taking more breaks, or is it connecting more with the self when you have a break?
I'd say it's connecting more with the self, period, so that I am mindful to take breaks and do what I need to do to prioritize my well-being.
Got it. And so is this something that you really believe is important, or do you think part of it is you understanding whether there's value in this for you?
I think it's important because my best ideas come when I'm on a walk or when my mind's clear. And so just going through the motions doesn't allow for that kind of creativity. Got it.
Okay. So it's not a question of motivation then for you. You think you understand the value of more connecting with the self?
Yes.
Got it. Yeah. And what about other people whose opinions are important to you? What do they think? Do you think, is this something that they would also be on board with, this idea of connecting with the self, or is it a kind of weird indulgent thing that people around you wouldn't be into?
I think they'd understand. I think they're always telling me that I do too much. And so I think they'd be in favor of taking a step back and a moment to breathe.
Got it. Okay. So there's not a problem with motivation. There's not a problem with social norms. Why do you think it doesn't happen more often? Are there circumstances where you do it and circumstances where you don't? Like, is it simply a matter of sometimes you're way too busy, or is it a forgetting issue where once you get started in the day, it never occurs to stop and connect with the self? Do you have any insight into why it doesn't happen?
I think it's both. I mean, I work 3 jobs, so I have a pretty busy week, but I also just can get really in the zone on something and forget or just not want to take a break because I feel like it'll disrupt my flow state.
Okay. And is it something that you actually have control over? Like, if you really set the intention, is it something that you could put into your schedule, or is sometimes your schedule so overwhelming that it would be literally impossible to do it?
I think there's different ways to rejuggle my schedule in ways that have made it easier. So like, for example, I've started trying doing one job, like 12 and a half hours a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and another one 10 hours a day, Tuesday, Thursday. And that's helped keep my mind in like a better track to just focus on that one thing instead of having 3 things floating around at once, and allow for a bit like better concentration.
Got it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So, and it goes back, it's to this one post-it that we're looking at, C, which is self-control. Is there an example of a time that you were able to give yourself more time? In other words, something that really worked for you in terms of like not working 22 hours a day, or like, you know what I mean? Like, because it sounds like you're working a lot. Is there something that worked for you from the standpoint of self-control in terms of like giving yourself a break or giving yourself that time to get out and walk and get inspired?
I think, gosh, it's hard to think of it because I've been on the same track since I started high school and haven't stopped.
Okay.
But I don't know. There was one semester I was in Copenhagen and I didn't have any responsibilities, and it made it a lot easier for me to not overwhelm my schedule and live more in the moment, and like just connect with my host family and play games and make art and go to museums. And I guess the other thing is right now, if I if I am in the zone, normally I can get my work done in a much more efficient manner that like significantly reduces the time I'm working. And that encourages me to take more breaks. And then also like Friday nights and Saturdays are like my sacred days. So under most circumstances, I don't let myself do work on those days.
Grace, if you can work 10% less in terms of, say, cut your meetings by 10% or have the deliverables, the quality and the quantity both suffer, let's say by 10%, would you still feel happy about yourself? Would you be happily accepting that you are loving yourself as much when you are delivering things 10% less or 10% less, even in quality?
Well, I think my first question to that would be, I don't know if cutting my time 10% on working would necessarily reduce my capacity 10% if I'm prioritizing things that allow me to work better. And then the other thing is, I think if I like were to take the commitments I have now and then perform 10% worse, I would feel badly about that.
I have a question. So you say in the zone, does your zone ebb and flow at all? Like, I know for me, my zone is like, it's like a buildup of information that happens for me. Like I start understanding a problem and it's the understanding that is the zone, I guess. And if I stop, I have to regain that understanding because it's this buildup at that moment. And so I can't stop in the middle of that, or I just lose time. It's worse. Is there a moment that is more appropriate or less appropriate to stop?
I think it depends on what I'm doing. I think I totally agree on that when I'm doing something like research for Johns Hopkins and what I do in neuroaesthetics, or if I'm writing a paper or something like that. I think it's different when I'm doing a series of tasks for my scholarship programming job, or a series of things I have to get done for the Center for Conscious Design. And like some days I just wake up and I'm able to instantly go into flow state and everything kind of just comes easily. And other days it's like I'm really struggling to get the work done. So, yeah.
Okay.
David, we're back to you.
I think I got one more question, which is just, can you talk a little bit more about this, the forgetting, when you don't take these moments? And you invoked two things. One was like a forgetting, you just kind of doesn't occur to you to stop and do it. The other is the idea that maybe you didn't forget, but there's a fear that by disengaging with whatever you are doing, you're going to kind of fall back on that, not make progress. So there's a motivation in a way not to do it, not to stop and pause, because you are afraid that other work will suffer because of it. Can you talk a little bit more about that fear and talk about which one of those two things, the forgetting, which is really a mindlessness problem, and the fear of, maybe I actually shouldn't stop and do this because I'm not going to get this thing done today. Which one of those is a bigger problem, do you think?
I'd say the stress of not getting it done is a bigger problem because it feels really good to be in the zone, even like if it means I forget to like do something, like it feels really good to feel so like good about what I'm doing. So I'd say like it's a dual sword with the stress levels, because it's almost like if I don't have enough things to do, I'm not motivated to do them. But when I have a lot to do, it can be stressful to do them. So it's, I guess I'm trying to find that balance, but I'd say that is the larger issue.
It reminds me that, David, one of the solutions you previously come up with, even with the breathing exercise, you could still have Grace sort of stare at the task and have the illusion that she's not out of the flow, but that there is like this deep connection with self happening at the same time, which, you know, with exercise, we call it hidden gym, right? You can stand in front of the computer and you can bike at the same time, or you can stretch, you can do yoga stretch, you know, without interrupting, without taking extra time to do that. So can we kind of come up with something that without taking extra time to like connect and go away from that task, but still be present with both self and the work?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, either reframing that time away, connecting with the self as not a zero-sum game.
Unproductive. Yeah.
Yeah, either reframing that, or as you're suggesting here, finding ways to literally not make it a zero-sum game. So to integrate connecting the self with actually making progress on one of these goals. I think that's a really interesting idea.
Okay, so which what do you think would be the main barrier here as a conclusion?
I personally feel like the forgetting thing is definitely a habit problem, right? It's that you're in the flow of whatever else you're doing, and the intention. So Grace clearly is motivated. There are supporting social norms. She believes she has control over this behavior at least to some degree. So it's really the flow of the other things prevents her thinking about this. Plus, I think there's this piece that we've been talking about, which is a motivation piece. I'm not sure whether that's the top left-hand corner here, where believing that stopping and connecting the self will not cannibalize her time and progress on other things. Those to me are actually two different barriers.
Yeah. I have difficulty, opening this habit thing. Why don't we just call it?
Yeah, tell me which one. I'll just pull it.
Piggybacking. I just feel like, you know, for example, the existing routine, such as visiting the toilet. I mean, Grace, you must have time to go to the toilet, right?
I do.
And that has to, you know, maybe we have to insert more toilet visits that are interrupting.
Only in an emergency.
Can you two, can everybody here help Grace maybe creating just connection with self routine while she's sitting on the toilet? I think, wow. Is something we can do there?
You're welcome.
Hey, for just out of curiosity, so David was saying, you know, he thought that there might be a habit thing, and you've got the scientific insight where you can give us little secret tips. Is there a particular card you want me to pull away from either habit or
I think piggybacking on the existing habit one? Without adding, piggybacking on the existing one. David, what do you think? I know that one is something that you like a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I don't know what number that is.
I think it's 4.1. 4.1. Yeah, okay. 4.1. Go ahead and draw that.
So that says consistent and stable cues.
That doesn't feel like piggybacking.
Oh, I see it.
There you go.
Okay.
And Tim was also talking about motivation, which is... David was talking about motivation, which is over here at 1, you know, which is intangible invisible benefit as a trick, or ostrich effect procrastination. David, do you have a sense of maybe a little trick that you got for this other one, the motivation one?
I don't know about the ostrich effect one, with it being what's the one? I can't see it. What's the one to the left of that?
Ting is hiding it. It's intangible invisible benefit. Ting, can you talk about that for a sec? Or David, do you know what that means?
You know, even though you know that connection with self, even taking a minute, it's more productive for your outcome. It's very hard to link it to the outcome. It's just very invisible. It's very intangible. Even no matter how many scientific studies shows you that it's gonna help you, not until you see it for yourself. It's kind of hard to believe. Yeah.
Are there tricks to make intangible things tangible in that regard, Ting, from what you've learned in sort of choice architecture?
I'm actually looking at, sorry, Mickey, I'm looking at this audience question here. Could she rewire her relationship with self-care and actually improve productivity? She pauses, takes a walk. So Grace said that when she takes a walk, she has some of her best ideas. Can you take a longer walk from the toilet back to your desk?
Just put your toilet outside the house.
Perfect. I'll just use the one in the lobby. I'll zone off the one in my apartment.
Yeah. I think the intangible benefit one, we're gonna tackle it in our next episode because we have actually have a hard stop a meeting at 4. So Mickey, can we stick to this piggybacking on the existing one and let us kind of dive into that 3 minutes ideas?
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Awesome. Okay. David, Daniel, Grace, can you go to the second board? Maybe Mickey, you can draw them all to you. My mirror is going. Thank you, Brian, for that suggestion. Appreciate it.
I can't really tell if everyone's to me, but
I'm not,
because I don't think I have control of that.
I'll take everyone to me.
So this is where she wants you to be on the Miro board. It's basically the redesign round 2. And you can go copy and paste your existing idea and say, okay, how could I turn that into part of a habit? Or you could write an entirely new idea. So it's up to you, but we're just going
to the right of our previous board.
We don't. So you choose, like I might take my idea and just go, okay, now how could I turn that into more of a habit to get her to reconnect? But now that we've done this diagnosis, you might want to do a whole new idea. It's up to you. But we're going to have 3 minutes. And Grace, you can, of course, try to solve it for yourself, too. Okay. Oh, you gave us 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Even better. All right.
Marie just gave us a
good vibes.
Thank you, Marie. If you have an idea, feel free to come in. We're really tackling like a tough challenge to Grace faces. you win one of the toughest challenges that we have faced in this episode, in this show.
do we have to continue? Yeah, are we, that's internal. Are we supposed to continue to use smell and body parts and coffee and tea?
Yes.
Okay.
But you could do a whole new idea if you feel like it.
Yeah, you just pick 2 things. You don't need to use all of them.
Or you could steal David's or Grace's or whatever. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Perfect.
Marie, no problem. I know you arrived a little bit late. You can just try to come up with any idea you have for Grace to redesign her work breaks, and so that she can find a moment to connect with herself and unlock even more creative energies potential instead of overworking, non-stop working.
That's my mom, so she's been trying to solve it her whole life.
Okay. Hi, Grace mom. Great to have you here. Thank you for streaming in. 50 seconds left for the busy ideators. I gotta just quickly tell someone that I'm late.
Man. Okay. You gonna give us an extra 10 seconds? No? Probably can't. I say we go. We should just explain it if you've got anything.
Ooh. Okay, if everybody can take your if you're done, remove your mouse so that we can see the post-it.
Pick up your pencils. Dang. All right, fine. I decided to try sketching a lot more this time, just for fun, but it didn't get very far. Okay, who wants to go?
I'll go. I'm pink.
Yeah,
Pink.
it matches
All
your
right.
shirt too, Daniel.
That's right. It matches my. I did that on purpose. Definitely.
Awesome. I'm taking it bigger, but you can
did not go gray. Okay, so are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to enlarge it. Sorry. Yep. Coming down here. Whoopsie.
Okay.
Daniel, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yep.
So the idea is kind of going on Grace's interest in creating some sort of synesthesia. Take a set of trinkets, put them in your pocket, and when you go on a walk, play with those things in your pocket. And as you touch a particular one, associate things that you do with that trinket specifically to that. So as you're walking, if you touch the meditation one, then you're forced to clear your mind. If you touch the one that is about schedule, then you just think about what you have to do next. When you touch, like so, and it's just kind of random, and it gives you some kind of like mind calisthenics, but also included in there are a bunch of things that you want to do that you don't tend to do, that you are forced to do when you touch those things. And so it becomes like your walk becomes a productive activity. Inherently, you also get to walk, and you also do some things that are break related.
Wow. I love small things. Thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Man,
Nice.
You can
Mickey.
I want to point out.
Of course.
Hey, Grace, I want to point out there's an amazing book called Messy. And they looked at everybody from Brian Eno, who's like an amazing producer and music artist who's worked with David Byrne and others, and they look at Nobel scientists and things like that. And it turns out that people who have lots of things going on in their lives are very productive, like you know, probably lots of things. But Brian Eno came up with a deck of cards that could be attached to like Daniel's idea. And and you pull a card and it says, do the opposite. And you pull a card and it says, you know, lay on the ground or smell. And just look around you. And it's this, he came up with these decades ago, but they're actually considered like really important kind of ways of getting your brain to like just disconnect. So I wonder if there's almost some things on those trinkets that have to do with things you want to do to connect you with yourself. A little bit like people in the Messy book, you know, who've been sort of ranked as some of the most amazing creative people in the world, but they actually take weird breaks and they do interesting things with them. And they trust that they'll come back around through the wilderness and have something even better.
Sorry. Okay, go away. Thank you for that.
Daniel, can you put your mute on down in the bottom?
Hello.
And then, yay, dog. What do you mean
Yeah,
if it triggered
actually,
David's
this is
chihuahua?
I just want to say both of these ideas are also great for children, who, you can disrupt their whatever insanity activities with something that they love, but that they give them a little surprise distraction.
So those cards are called
David.
oblique strategies.
Yep, oblique strategies.
Okay, so continuing with our sensory theme, I think it's inspired by Grace's interest in synesthesia. This one is a kind of olfactory or somatosensory email password. So the idea is you would have a little physical device that randomly generates a different smell. So it might be, rose petals one day and tangerines another day. And you have to smell the smell, correctly identify it, and enter it as a password to
It's
enter
amazing.
in your email. And then you could have like two-factor authentication, like you've got with your
Gold. It's so
email.
gold.
And then you might have to identify a body part that's experiencing strong sensory input at that moment, other than obviously your nose.
Oh yes!
Wow.
That is brilliant. I love it.
I wonder if you could put those smells in different parts of the house. So instead of her sitting on a computer to do the second factor, she has to find the smell.
Oh, she had to walk.
Push the button or something.
Yeah, great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Smells
nice.
Oh my God.
Grace, what'd you come up with?
So I started expanding upon my shag carpet, and then I remembered that shag carpet doesn't only go on the floor; it goes everywhere. So I don't want to over all my walls because I have a lot of art up, but I want just random patches here and there, and I want it multiplied by not only smell but different lights and colors that it would take on, and different kind of like visuals and textures and things like that. And then I want it to still be programmed by Google Calendar, but I want it to kind of activate my geospatial footprint and kind of take me into different worlds or experiences or like weather patterns, so that it kind of keeps me on my toes. But I also want it to be biometric. So for example, I liked some of the neuroscience and psychology that was being brought in. So for example, at night, when I might stay up too late working, it might start to heat up a little bit, because when your feet start to, I'm pretty sure you go to bed faster when your feet are warm.
Yeah.
So it would be responding to that, and maybe give me more natural light instead of artificial, and different ways to kind of respond to my body. And then I like the idea of it lighting up in different poses for me too, like on my break, to take a few moments to disconnect and reconnect with myself.
Awesome.
All right, I'll do mine real quick.
Thank you. Real quick.
Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
I was just going to say, have you heard of David Eggleman and his Wall Street vest? Basically, he has a bunch of sensors or a bunch of vibration devices that he's trying to communicate in just like there's data communicating with your body about the state of of Wall Street, and he does this with other things as well, or the weather.
Wow.
And it's just a ton of information, just kind of communicating with your body, and you have no idea what it is. And it's basically just like, okay, let's see if we can do the way that we currently program or teach computers things, but with humans and their body, and see if your brain will reprogram itself to start understanding this data without actually understanding it like it does for language.
Yeah, so David's actually been able to put a vest on people and have them ride a bike if they're blind, because they can actually feel the camera sensing, and they can also do operations on brains actually, because it's super fine with a robotic robot, but they just feel it, and it's just basically a grid of cell phone vibrator motors.
Right,
Wow.
and he does this for deaf people that can't hear, and he just puts this vest on them, and it's just listening, and eventually they start understanding the words based on what they feel on their back.
Yeah. Now he did a PBS television show that was kind of like the Cosmos for the brain, and he actually just recently launched a product. So this isn't in the future, but as an API that you can actually have new senses, because he thinks your senses are like a USB stick. You can just plug in a new sense and you'll get it. You know, like infrared vision and stuff. I want to do my last diagram, which is just actually we should.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time. Synthetic Shaggy. It was just going to kidnap her and wrap her up in senses after if she stepped out. I mean, that's all. And so every time she walked, it would like attack, and then she started making noises or saying, "No, but I've got to work on that spreadsheet." It would start like ripping on spreadsheet and like kind of like trying to distract her. And that's all. Synthetic Shaggy.
Can it be made of plants?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Poison ivy from really bad.
No poison.
No poison. Just very lovely.
The goal would be to break you out of flow, because breaking you out of flow will lead you to better flow later. That's the
Okay.
Shaggy
really running out of time. Lovely having you all. David, Daniel, Grace, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for streaming in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Grace.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck, Grace. Let us know if you do any of these.
I will. All right.
All right.